Sorry. Okay, here we go. Hey everybody, I'm Julie Johnson. I'm the founder of Integrate Network. We have Gabby Golach, right?
Yeah.
With us today, and she is a student at Logan College of Chiropractic. Chiropractic? Is that what it is? I mean, that's just
Nailed it. Chiropractic. Yep.
yep. Okay. And she's going to be with us today, talking a little bit more about the things she's learned about the different ways our bodies can self heal using this method of body work. We'll be talking a little bit about trauma healing in the body, a little bit about her work, her kind of what she's learned in school, and where she wants to take her kind of more holistic perspective of chiropractic work into the future, given chronic stress, but also just full on whatever functional medicine healing. So okay, but before that, I'm gonna have her introduce herself and speak for herself. So go for it.
Awesome. Hey guys, I'm Gabby. I'm 24 and I'm in my 7th trimester at Logan University out of 10. So definitely in the home stretch here. Just started student clinic, which is an awesome experience, getting to learn a ton, having patients I get to see recurringly and not just messing around with students outside of class, practicing, and so like it's really great to follow out with like actual treatment plans and really just like see things come to fruition with healing. Pretty amazing. I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio. I've been here in St. Louis now for just over 2 years, and honestly not really sure where I'm going to end up next, and totally okay with that. Just kind of letting let myself be led to wherever I'm supposed to be. So just enjoying the ride at this point in time.
Cool. Well, there you go. That's the way to do it. That's
Yeah.
kind of how I got where I was. I didn't really have anything. Awesome. Okay, so let's start right in and we'll get chatting. Okay, so just basic, tell us how you got interested in becoming a chiropractor. I always love hearing these stories from chiropractors because it's always an interesting, just an interesting story. And
Yeah. So, couple interesting pieces that have come with this. So, I've always been absolutely terrified of needles. Like, doctors have scared the crap out of me. Like, I just, like that classic like white coat syndrome, like when you get your blood pressure taken, it just like skyrockets, like just nerves all around. And so, I was actually about 5 years old. My mom was pregnant with my little brother, and like at 5 years old, you don't really know to be afraid of needles. You don't know that these things necessarily hurt. So I don't know why I had this fear, but my mom was pregnant with my little brother, and I remember going to the doctor with her, and I remember that she had to get blood work done, and I just remember saying like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. And so for whatever reason, I decided to poke my little 5-year-old head around the wall, and I thought I saw a blood bubble coming out of her arm, and I thought I saw it pop. And the next thing I knew, I was being woken up by doctors with like wet towels on my head.
oh no,
So this is like 5 years old, and
that's a lot
it's a
for
very
a five.
traumatic, scarring experience for me.
Yeah, that's a lot for a five.
Um, yeah, so that was one piece, and I've kind of just grown up like avoiding needles at all costs, like hated going to the doctor for checkups, like afraid they were going to make me get shots or blood work, and so that's one piece. Another piece for me that was super memorable was that my mom actually had these things in her feet called Morins Neuroma. So some people, they're pretty common. They're basically bundles of nerves that get inflamed and they hurt like hell. And so when we were little, she told us that me and my siblings, she told us that she had tomatoes in her feet so we wouldn't step on them.
Oh, wow.
Because it like that visual when you're a kid, you're
Right.
like, I can't get near those puppies. So I remember actually going to the chiropractor with her because she's supposed to have surgery to get them removed. And the chiropractor actually helped her avoid getting surgery.
Oh
So that
wow.
was like again, like another pretty memorable experience for me. And again, just I was pretty young, like 5 or 6, was not very old at all. And so in the back of my mind growing up, through middle school, high school, even college, like I always knew I wanted to be a chiropractor, and I doubted it because I was like, man, like what middle school kid knows they want to be a chiropractor? Like I always just used to say like I want to be like a sports medicine doc, like without really knowing, just because I was always so heavily involved in sports. Like I played field hockey in college, and so the chiropractors that I went to growing up did a lot of soft tissue work. I did get adjusted every time I went. Like I didn't understand that like chiropractic was about the adjustment.
Right.
Until I came to school, and I honestly fell even more in love with chiropractic as I learned it's the adjustment that helps create that magic and helps unleash that potential in the human system. And I've fallen in with some really amazing groups of people from all across the country, chiropractic peers from other schools and mentors from all over the place. And I've become very philosophically sound in chiropractic and just like firmly believing in the power of the adjustment, whether that be an osseous adjustment, so you're actually like adjusting bones, or more of a tonal adjustment where you're having lighter contacts on the system, both of which have absolutely amazing effects. It's just being able to listen to the person's system who's on your table in front of you and being able to adapt to what they need in that moment.
That's huge. That's huge in body work. Absolutely. Well, that's so did you not, so like, what, remind me again the name of your focus in chiropractic work?
So they're more vitalistic chiropractic, or I've actually in the past, since we've met, actually I've kind of like shifted that terminology to more innate centered chiropractic. So
Okay.
with chiropractic, the premise is that we believe in the innate intelligence of the body. The power that created the body can also heal the body. And it's pretty amazing. So if you think about it, like you get cut and you start to bleed, but you don't bleed forever. Your body slows it down. It coagulates the blood. It starts to clot. And then eventually you scab over, and eventually that scab heals, and you may form a scar, you may not, but like your body knows to do all these things without you telling it. Like that is innate intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely. So it knows what it's doing. It does its own. It has its own. It has its own rhythm. You know, you don't have to consciously do anything. It's wise and just it's being.
Exactly.
And yeah, awesome. So that's kind of the nature, because you and I have talked about this, like typical like mainstream people only go to the chiropractor if they get a car accident. You know, that's kind of the, you know, and it wasn't for me. It wasn't until my daughter and I, were both facing quite a bit of chronic health issues where we were both told, go to the chiropractor. And I've never been to the chiropractor except for pregnancy and dealing with my chronic health issues. So that's all I know. But my family, I have family members and other people that are like, why are you going to chiropractor? Were you in a car accident? That's always the conversation. And I'm like, no, this is like maintenance. Like,
wellness care, getting better every day here, like
it's like preventative stuff. So yeah, so I'm glad you're speaking on this, because I don't know. I guess a lot of the things we talk about is not mainstream knowledge. So I definitely think chiropractic work is definitely not in the mainstream of even like Western wellness world. It's always go there for a car accident. or workman's comp, something or other.
Exactly. Or like when you have like a blunt physical trauma, like people think that that's the only time that it's like, oh, okay, then I'll go when I'm hurt.
Right. Exactly. Actually, that's a good segue into number 3. Okay, so as a student in chiropractic school, how has chiropractic care how can it be beneficial for someone trying to self-heal in a variety of ways, including psychological trauma or chronic illness? How you kind of touched on it, but can you go into a little bit more maybe of the science behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna come back to more of the science.
Okay.
But so like a premise of chiropractic is that subluxation, which is depending on how you want to view it, it's either your misalignment or your stored energy. It's what's causing disease in the system. So you have disease when you're sick, and you have dis-ease. So sickness and symptoms are what are expressed when the system is expressing dis-ease.
Right.
So that is subluxation. So and it's interesting because if you ask 10 different chiropractors their definition of subluxation, you're most likely going to get 10 different answers.
Right.
In my opinion, that's what makes the profession beautiful.
Right.
And a lot of people choose to dispute that and fight over it and want to claim that their definition is right, but like embrace the diversity. That's not, and there are a million different kinds of patients out there. So why wouldn't there be a million different kinds of doctors and chiropractors to help fulfill the needs of all those types of people? So roping myself back in here, I believe that a subluxation is stored energy. So when you go through some type of experience, whether that be a traumatic experience, that trauma can be physical, emotional, mental, spiritual even. I believe that when the system, your physical system and mental system, is not able to integrate it in that moment, that energy is stored as potential energy in the body, creating some type of subluxation or dis-ease So this is the point where you'll see eventually compensations in the system, the physical structure of the system, or you'll see emotional and mental and psychological discomfort that's outwardly expressed. And that can be expressed as anxiety, as PTSD, as OCD, as all these different things, depression, or even you can become manic. You know, it really just depends on how your system is holding on to that stored energy, what I like to refer to as potential energy.
Yeah.
So I might need rope back in here, trying to get back to the original question. But for me, that's where I see that like chiropractic can play such a big role in releasing past traumas. And again, those traumas can be physical or emotional or mental. So if you think about it, when you get into like a car accident, for example, just like a good solid example, everyone can visualize that, you're most likely going to have some kind of whiplash injury. So that neck injury, that whiplash injury, is your body's compensation. So your body can adapt. That's the adaptation in that moment. That's the best that it can do.
Right.
Otherwise, you might have like a snapping of the cord, or you could have worse trauma if your body wasn't able to adapt. So what happens is you develop these compensations. So as you're unable to integrate these things, your body finds the best way to adapt that it can in that moment.
Right. Okay.
So with chiropractic, we're helping to create a window of opportunity where those traumas can be released. And it is through the chiropractic adjustment. So you're kind of gathering up all that potential energy, putting a force into it, whether that be a high velocity, low amplitude force, so more of like an osseous adjustment, or just like a light tonal adjustment where you're just like contacting lightly on the system in a specific location. But you're just creating these windows for these energies to be integrated into the body.
Yes. That's awesome. That's really cool. I like how you said windows. I think that's a really cool analogy for the work that you guys are doing with, with the body there. That's cool. That's a cool way to look at, kind of a cool organic way of looking at it. I like that. So that you did answer the question. So
that made my way back there because
yeah, you did. You did. That was good. How was it beneficial? You did it. Okay, so what has drawn you? I know you said you did your internship with Dr. Hughes that Victoria used to see when she lived here in St. Louis. So what, and because he does specialize in kind of the trauma aspect of chiropractic work and the parasympathetic nervous system stuff, what drew you in, what was interesting, like in that internship, what drew you into that internship, I guess, and his focus, and what did you learn while you were under him? I'm kind of rewording it a little bit, but it's the same.
Big deal.
Okay.
No, totally fine. So I actually just shadowed him one day.
Okay, that's right.
Still great learning experience. So the reason I got hooked up with him was actually through Victoria.
Yeah.
So Victoria and I met super randomly in a coffee shop like last September. I was studying for a physiology test on like the GI tract, and so like all these digestive enzymes were like the primary focus of what I was studying. And I'm about to literally put headphones in, and I hear somebody behind me talking about the same thing, and I turn around and I was like, "What? It's so bizarre!" Like, so naturally I have to open my mouth and start a conversation and see what's going on. But so her and I got to know each other a bit, and she told me that she had seen Dr. Hughes for herself, her own treatment, and so I got connected with him that way, and I just went into shadow, and it was really, really interesting to see the integration of the functional medicine side of things with chiropractic and with adjusting. And honestly, just listening to his communication was so huge because there are a million different ways to tell the same story, and to tie something so well researched, like chiropractic is extremely well researched. Heidi Havoc has done amazing research. Heidi Havoc.
Okay, cool.
Just researching the adjustment and the effects it has on like the prefrontal cortex and how that impacts your behavior and literally everything. So tying in like the science of the adjustment with the science of medicine and like the impact of like overall gut health and the effect that your gut health and what you're consuming on a daily basis has on your brain and how your blood responds, and just tying in how systemically affecting what you're consuming is, both consuming like visually, like auditory, obviously like what you're eating. So honestly, just learning from him, his style of communication was extremely impactful on me.
That's very cool. So in terms of kind of going back to number 4, so like in terms of this is like one of the and you can veer off from like the trauma aspect of it as much as possible. So, but for the sake for the sake of like what Victoria and I know, what makes you interested in learning more about how trauma impacts the body? Like what got you interested in that? I guess you could say in that
Yeah.
sort of sub focus in chiropractic work.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, okay, so this is interesting. I believe that um, everyone goes through traumas. Some of those are micro traumas, some of those are macro traumas, and I think that people are honestly hesitant to admit that their trauma is bad enough to qualify as a trauma.
Right. Yes. Yes.
So,
Ding, ding, ding.
everyone is going to be walking in having gone through some sort of trauma.
Yes.
Whether, again, that's a physical trauma, emotional, mental, spiritual, it doesn't matter. But I believe that chiropractic, along with somatic experiencing, theta healing, as you were telling me about 2 weeks ago when we met, like there are all these things that are so important in allowing somebody to integrate their trauma just by giving them permission to acknowledge it and to accept it.
Right.
Because I think that's so hard. And so I've gotten very involved with a group called Adjusting Ninjas, and through this group, it's a training culture. So it's called Adjusting Ninjas.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
that is fantastic.
So this group, and this isn't the only group that does this, and that's what's so cool. But it's a subgroup of this training culture called Kairos training culture. Mm-hmm. So we're training chiropractic. We're training the physical aspects. So obviously, like the speed and the accuracy and the power of our adjustments, but we're also training sustainability as chiropractors. Mm-hmm. And almost more importantly, we're training the connection to our patients. Okay. So that's a piece that is honestly so bypassed in school. Like it is not covered. The trauma, like nothing really that I'm getting into tonight is covered in school. These are things that I've searched for and sought out outside of school.
Welcome to welcome. That will not.
Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't want it any other way. It's made me appreciate the things that I've gotten to learn.
Right.
So much more, but what I train for is I train to create a space that's safe and that's healing, and I want all of that to be known just through my touch. So the second I lay my hands on a patient, I'm matching tone. I'm meeting them where they're at. An example I like to give is like if I have an extrovert who's bouncing off the walls with energy and bubbly and happy, and or if I have a patient like that come in and lay down on my table, I can go in and greet them with my hands in a certain way, with a certain amount of energy. If I have a patient who's a total introvert, who's depressed, anxious, has PTSD, I can't go in with the same type of energy to touch them as I would this other patient. So that's what I'm training, and I'm increasing my sensitivity to what's going on with each person as they come in. So they lay down, I touch their neck, I connect, I just greet them. I'm just listening. I'm not searching for anything. I'm not asking. I'm literally just there listening, showing them that like they don't need to give me anything in this moment. I'm not needing anything. And I think for people who go through trauma, that's so big because they feel, and again, this is where it's like people feel like they need to like quantify and qualify their traumas, that it's bad enough that they can call it trauma, and it's just not the case. So like allowing somebody to just feel safe through your touch is what I train. I think that's truly where healing happens, because it's like through my touch, I'm giving them permission to say, it's okay. I acknowledge you. It's okay for you to acknowledge yourself, what you've been through, where you've come from, where you are now. And it's okay to accept that. And I think that that's honestly how we continue to evolve, and that's how consciousness continues to rise. And at the end of the day, that's the goal of chiropractic, is to continue to evolve that consciousness and evolve and learn and continue to grow and become better humans. So that's awesome. Where I want to tie in the trauma aspect. And
oh, that's really cool. Awesome. Very cool. I like how you describe it too. That's perfect. I love that. Okay, going on to number 5. What has been the most interesting fact or theory that you've learned about the body being a vessel for self-healing? You've kind of been doing this, but like more about the self-healing side. So you might be going into things you've already said, or you can go deeper. but being like a vessel, a self-healing vessel from like psychological or physical stress, or they're all connected.
Yeah, so I think one of the most amazing things is the body's ability to remember
Mm-hmm.
and to store.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at a lot of people who have been in chronic pain for a long time,
Yeah.
there's an initial trigger, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but pain continues to persist for a lot of people after the structural damages or destruction has been recovered.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to look at why.
Right.
And a lot of people will get into the neuro behind it, and that's great, and it's super valid, and it's extremely, extremely important. Um, but what I think is so interesting is like understanding where certain traumas are stored and where energy is stored and where experiences are stored.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I can give an example. So for me personally, I've been dealing with some chronic pain stuff over the last like 5 to 6 weeks. I've never had to deal with this stuff before, ever. So
Right.
I had about a week that was just like terrible. And I was in a seminar out in Colorado with some very, very close friends and two amazing mentors of mine. And I kept feeling every day like, okay, this is the day, the release is going to come. The release is going to come, because like I just felt like this pain that I'm dealing with, or I was dealing with, was not pain from this damage that was done in my body.
Right.
From whatever I was dealing with, I felt like it was something that was stored, like it needed to be released. And
Okay.
so we get to, I think, the third day of the seminar, and a very close friend of mine, so what we do is we get together, our mentors would do some type of demo, we'd break out, do it on each other, come back 45 or so minutes later. So they do a demo of a certain adjustment or certain style of adjustment, and then we kind of get freedom to go and explore that on our own. And my friend and I kind of looked at each other and look away and like look back, and we're like, we knew we like needed to be paired up together for this. And the adjustment that was being done is an adjustment that really just opens everything up, so it can be very like emotionally releasing.
Right.
And I mean, there's a reason that her and I were both there was a reason that her and I both looked at each other. And so she adjusted me first, and I finally just like felt this release, and I was finally able to just like cry and just feel
Oh,
it, because at the end of the day, that's like,
that's
chiropractic
beautiful.
is about feeling, and it doesn't have to
That's,
be good feelings. Yeah, it doesn't have to be bad, but it's just like it's getting you to feel. It's connecting you to yourself, to what you're feeling internally, so you can connect more
yeah.
externally. And that's how we stay present in our environments. And but anyways, so I've been dealing with this pain, and I just cried, and I just opened up to her, and I just told her like things that were just on my heart, like it just needed to come out. And the rest of the day I had virtually no pain for the first time in about 10 days.
That reminds me of just what a lot of people like in the yoga world talk about, like when they do certain poses,
Yeah.
how they start crying for no, you know what I mean? Just
Yeah,
like it's a release usually, that reminds
exactly.
me of some of those stories. Like for me, it's always pigeon pose. For some reason, whenever I get nervous for stuff, and I'm like, what, you know,
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's really cool. Especially if you're like with someone else. That's really cool intuition too. That's awesome.
yeah. And
Very cool.
but just like the way that energy can be stored in your system, especially for people who are dealing with chronic pain, I think it's just a very like, it's an example that's very easy for people to envision and imagine. And so when you get some type of adjustment that's able to help you release a lot of that chronic pain, if you're ready to release it and you've come to terms with that pain, you've acknowledged it and accepted your situation,
Yeah.
just like melts away.
Yes. I'm glad you said that, because I think that there's some in theta healing we talk a lot about you holding on to your belief system like until you're ready to release them. And I'm glad you just said that about the body. We do that, we say that a lot about like just in terms like spiritual and emotional stuff, but I'm like it does, you're connecting it to chiropractic work. That's a cool connection. I just wanted to make sure it's being made. So that's awesome. That's very, yeah, that's very interesting and very just cool how the body connects like that. So
Oh my
what
God,
makes
yeah.
it work really fantastic. So okay, how would you like to integrate your field of chiropractic work like into the field a little deeper into like what we call traumatology, which is like just the study of kind of what Victoria does of how understanding how trauma impacts like, the human system, and the community surrounding it. How do you think the field could go deeper or a little bit dip its toe in, because it kind of keeps itself out a little bit more, you know what I mean? So how what would you perceive to be the best way forward for that?
So, okay, a couple pieces to that. I think a lot of it comes down to presence
Mm-hmm.
of the practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I got asked this question when I was out at a seminar out in Colorado, but I believe it's the duty of the chiropractor to work as best they can to clear their own traumas, their own shit, basically, that's in their way.
Amen.
Yeah. So
Amen.
that way I feel more clear when I go to connect with the patient, and I'm not projecting my own stuff and things that I've been through and things that I haven't let go onto that patient.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that once we get clear on the fact that, like, and that's not going to be what everybody feels is their duty, but for me personally, I feel like that's my duty as a chiropractor.
Oh, I feel like that as a teacher and as a human, as a parent.
As a human interacting with other people that you want to help grow, and
I
yeah.
feel like I'm like I just feel like it's just our duty to clean up our junk.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. Like, who wants to walk around with that stuff all day long? It's just
So
no fun.
yeah, I agree.
So I think that honestly, those are two big things that need to happen in order for chiropractic to dive deeper into the world of traumatology.
Mm-hmm.
Another large piece is creating a safe environment, an environment that facilitates healing. And so the beauty of chiropractic and so many other aspects of the healing profession is that healing through body work are things that are done together. It's a team effort between the practitioner and the patient. And a chiropractic adjustment is not something that is done to you.
Right.
That is a violation.
Right.
That you're literally violating with your force, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not okay. So especially someone who's been through a trauma, how could you ever think that? I don't know, like that. It's just so backwards to me. You know, like a lot of chiropractors and a lot of people in general think that you're going and just putting in this big force into the system. But in all honesty, the patient has all the force they need within them. They're letting
Mm-hmm.
you in through that window so you can connect. And what I like to say, and I learned this through an amazing doc I was down taking a seminar with, Dr. Gore down in Dallas, Texas. But it's literally like my innate is connecting with the innate of the patient. And
Amen.
that's when the true adjustment and the true healing takes place. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're seeing them for the being that they are, like
Mm-hmm.
in here, as opposed to just like the human laying on your table, because they are
Right.
so much more than just that outer shell.
Absolutely. You know, in there were in the terms of like polyvagal theory, you know, or if you've I think we've talked about that. Just
Yeah.
the system as like it's co-regulation. It's being safe with another human being. You know, whether
Yeah.
that and that's huge. That's awesome. That's huge, and no matter what you're doing, where
Exactly.
you know, that's just being able to have someone feel safe in your presence is a plus. You know, especially if you're doing like if you're just if they're coming to you the adjustment. But I like how you constantly keep going back to that the body already knows how to adjust itself. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
that I like how you keep saying that because I think chiropractic work is always thought of as they're doing stuff to you. You know what I mean? Where it's you're not. You're sort of just like guiding the body into what it already wants to do. You know. So
Yes.
I like how you said because that's not common knowledge. Now, is that something that do they talk about that at all very much in chiropractic work, like school, or is that stuff like that's more?
Honestly, I'm so sad to say, but like virtually none of the things I'm talking about with you right
Yeah,
now are
like
school.
nothing.
Um,
Okay, that's just coming from your own like pedagogy, your own philosophy.
yeah, my philosophy that's been developed through just a bunch of different seminars that I've done.
Yeah.
I try to do a lot of traveling to different seminars because I want to work with as many different people as I can, so I can learn as much as I can from as many people who have come from such different backgrounds, but yet like are coming together with a
Mm-hmm.
similar mindset and this notion of like we want to come together to heal, to raise consciousness, to raise the vibration of
Mm-hmm.
people who are ready to heal and ready to grow, and so we're gonna do everything we can to help facilitate that.
That's awesome. I can tell you've done a lot of. I mean, that's good stuff. I mean, that's stuff that a lot of people do. In any profession. You get, like I said, definitely while you're out of school. So I'm glad you're doing that while you're in school. That's huge,
Thank you.
and will serve you well in the future. So, okay. So in Victoria and I, and in lots of these conversations, we've talked about good self care and good for healers and people that work in the human service industry. Well, we both do, but like in like institutions like I do, about having a good self-care practice in order to emotionally, physically feel safe for their own clients or students, like we just said. What's your own self-care routine that you do for yourself? Like, what are some things you do?
So a couple pieces of that. I've been working in the last 2 months or so to develop like a morning routine that really just works for me. So before I injured my back, I was getting up, doing some core work, doing some foot mobility, stretching, going for just a short jog, and doing some yoga in the morning, followed by some meditation. That was like working super great for me. But then like once I got hurt towards the end of September, I had to modify a little bit. Obviously couldn't really run. Yoga has been difficult for me. So I've been doing a lot of meditation, a lot of box breathing.
Oh yeah.
So really just like when you're counting, you know, like you can't really think about much else. I'm just focusing on my breath, and that honestly really centers me and really brings me back to the moment. So I've been doing a lot of meditation. I journal fairly regularly. I've been trying to be better about it and doing it every morning when I get up, just to get clutter out of my head first thing. Exercise is obviously huge for me. I love to read. So all of these things are huge in my self-care.
Cool.
Something else that really helps me stay centered and focused are implementing and working on my boundaries, my energetic boundaries. And really, and I think that's something that's important for every single person, whether you're in the healing profession or not. I think healers in particular have this desire to just give and give and give, but learning where to draw those lines, both physically and energetically. And then realizing,
because there's physical boundaries and then there are energetic boundaries. You know, I'm glad thank you for saying that.
You're so welcome. I got you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But it's like learning that things need to come through you and not from you.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, like if I'm coming home after adjusting all day, exhausted because I've been giving from myself all day long to my patients, that's not a sustainable practice. So I have to learn and practice that self-care now while I'm in school, while I don't have a ton of patients, just because that's not the nature of a student clinic, for example. I get to learn those things now of how to be sustainable, both energetically and physically. And that's a cool adventure for me to be on right now.
That's awesome. I like how you said working through you. You know, that's huge for anyone, like I said, around a human being. So because we do. I mean, I've been, Victoria and I have talked about this a lot. We can tell when people are projecting their stuff, and it's not. I'm like, is this really about the moment, or is this about like my stuff or your stuff, or like, But like, I know when I've cleared my junk, I'm like, my boundaries are in. I know when I'm, when I'm contained.
Yes, exactly.
Contained. So that's so clear. You can't do that unless you have some time to check in. So I think I like how you describe things. You're good with words.
Appreciate that.
You do a good job. Well, taking things that are sometimes esoteric but making them sound more approachable for people that may not understand.
Well, thank you. That's a massive compliment because honestly, when I offered to do a talk or interview or anything, I was like, man, this is so far outside my comfort zone right now. But just knowing like I'm going to have to do these things when I'm out in practice, like I want my patients to know that they can also do these things. They can implement these things into their lives. And at the end of the day, like I'm there for them. And so it's just good practice. So I'm so happy.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a series of students that we're actually coming up in the next couple of weeks. Actually, we're going to do some stuff in a variety of fields. So that's really cool. So tell us, the last question I have, and you don't know this part, but we've talked about it, is we don't have it on paper. But tell me about your as we close out, what is your ideal space? Because you talked about opening up a space. So let's close with that, because I think that's kind of a cool space that you described what you want to do, later on, wherever it is.
So the way I do some visualization as well, I feel like that's important. So I picture a freestanding building where you walk in and you just feel light and warmth, and you can literally just feel the healing happening. And so I want a space that has natural light, and I want a space that's I also want to work with kids in my practice. I think that's so important to get family, like entire families in and getting them checked and getting them adjusted so they're functioning with clear nervous systems. And so I envision walking into this place, into this space with kids just running around, running across the floor. But I want an area where it's just dedicated to kids, and it's dedicated to parents who want to go and play with their kids in that moment and just be and just express themselves. So I see like a lot of white. I see some wood, and I just see this very like calm, healing environment, and that's down to the smells in there. I love my essential oils, and that's down to the music that's playing in the back. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to have an open bay adjusting area, and my boyfriend and I are planning on opening up together as soon as he's done with school. So he's here behind me, so I'll have a year to kind of go out and learn some of the business side of things and just that type of stuff. And then we want to come back together and really just open up and make this space ours. And one, it's about for healing, but something that's really important to us again is like this open bay adjusting area where people can connect. And even in the waiting area, we want people connecting. I
That's
think people have
awesome.
a tendency to sit in individual chairs, and they sit on their phones and look down, and they disconnect from the world around them. And but we want like picnic benches out there, and
Aw,
people
that's
have
so
to like sit together like a bar area, you know, where they can't isolate themselves. And
right.
obviously people are going to need to do that at times, you know, whenever they feel that that's important to them. But like we want generally space that's made for connection. um, it's important to us that we create a space that's also made for like meditation, and where people feel they can come in even when they don't have an appointment. If they need to just come and just be present in our practice, in our place of healing, we want
Mm-hmm.
them to feel like they're invited to come in and just be without having an appointment. Well, we really just want some outdoor space as well, so lots of green space surrounding the practice, so we can take our tables outside when it's nice out.
Mm-hmm.
um, the important piece for me is just the feel when you walk in the door.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that will come down to the practice members, but we'll attract those. You know, like obviously
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be hard work to fill a practice, but I believe that we have the right mentality. And I mean, it's literally the law of attraction, you know. And we hope to live in a place where people value their health and they value their quality of life, and being able to move and being able to function optimally. And while like yes, it's important to convince people that their health is important to them, we want to be treating people who also want to live the highest quality life that they can, because
Right.
I think exponential healing can happen at that point.
Mm-hmm.
um, Both physically, mentally, emotionally, all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of healing can happen there, and the ripple effect of that is just massive. So
Cool. Oh, that's awesome. I love the way you described
mhm.
that. That sounds like
Thank
an awesome
you.
place. Very cool. Okay. Well, I think that's it. So, we will have this up on YouTube in the next couple of days for you to
Amazing.
share around. So this should be good, and we'll share it on Instagram and the places we share. Okay.
Awesome.
But thank you for meeting. And I'll stop recording here a second, and then I'll talk. Okay. But thank you for sharing all this tonight and sharing
My pleasure.
your wisdom about chiropractic, the chiropractic world, because it's not often talked about. I don't think so. So I mean, really, it's not really not actually like. And I know a lot of healers. It really isn't talked about quite often in the details. You know, of like breaking
Mm-hmm.
it down. It's just we just are like, oh, I went to the chiropractor. Like, you know, I went to the gym. You know, like
Yeah,
that's kind of what is. I like how kind of broke it down for us tonight. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
absolutely. I think uh, chiropractors compared to MDs is like people go to the MD and they know what to expect. A lot of the
Right.
times they're gonna walk in, they're gonna see a nurse, and then they're gonna see their MD for a couple minutes, and then they'll probably get some kind of prescription and they'll walk out. With chiropractic, I think that there's so many different kinds of chiropractors, so people don't know what they're gonna expect when they walk in the door.
Yeah.
So the way that I describe chiropractic tonight is not the way everybody's gonna describe chiropractic. And again, that's what I think makes it so beautiful.
Hmm.
So this is my take on chiropractic. This is how I hope to spread the chiropractic message. But um, so thank you for the opportunity. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
absolutely. Thank you. All right, we're gonna stop recording. Thank you so much. All right, stop. All right.